All right, fantastic. I do believe we are live. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Sunday morning live stream. It's going to be a super casual stream today. We're going to be making some chilled beats inside of Beatmaker 3. If you guys can let me know that you can hear me coming through in the chat. What's up, Connor? What's up, Grant? What's up, Samuel? All right, cool deal. Um, Sweet. We're going to be, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to create today. My intention is to start today by sampling or extracting some sounds, rather, out of the Playbeat app from Audio Modern. And we're going to be hopefully exporting that into Beatmaker 3. And then we'll be able to chop up the samples that we've exported and make something new today. Um, all right, fantastic. Hey, what's happening, Big John, UK? Okay, let's see here. What we've got is we're starting off today with Playbeat from Audio Modern. I've created a second pack of free drum kits and groove kits that are going to be available from the Audio Modern website in the coming days or weeks. Let's check a few of these kits out. It's going to get loud in probably 3, 2, 1. I hope that didn't explode anyone's phone there. These are just some, new kits that I've put together. Some of them have full melodics, and some of them are just drums. Just let me know if that's too loud or not loud enough in comparison to my voice. Just want to make sure you can still hear me talking over the music. Here's another one of the new ones. Hey, what's happening, Mars Capone? Thanks for tuning in. Lots of different variety in these new kits that I've put together. Everything from hardcore on the floor stuff, to chilled half-tempo stuff. Level seems fine. Thanks, guys. A little more vocal volume. All right. Here's another new one. Those of you who are just tuning in, no worries. We are going to be working in Beatmaker 3 today. We're not going to be working in Playbeat. We're just going to be extracting or sampling one of these groove kits, or drum kits rather, that I've put together. And we're going to be importing that into Beatmaker 3 to chop up and work with those samples today. All right, here's another one of the new kits that I've put together. All right, we got another one here. Nice dubby sound on this one. On this second pack of kits that I have put together for the Playbeat app, I think I'm really coming into my own with really working the app. I really like this groove here. In fact, I think this groove here might be what we're going to work with today. If you guys in the chat also like this groove here. So let me know what you guys think of this groove right here. I was thinking that maybe we could just break this groove down into its basic components of just the drums and just the bass line, and leave the lead synth here and just export out the drums and the bass line import those into Beatmaker 3, and then start trying to blend some other sounds and samples today. I want to use some hardware today, so I'm hoping to get the Korg Electribe EMX-1 into the mix today, as well as potentially the Quasimidi Raven. This groove here is already in the key of C minor, and all of the grooves inside of the factory grooves, rather, inside of the Korg EMX-1 and inside of the Raven are also in the key of C minor. So I thought maybe we could rebuild, these drums and bass inside of Beatmaker 3, and then see what sort of hardware synthesizer stuff we might be able to get, to blend with this to make some sort of a more robust groove. What do you guys think? We can go with something different if you guys aren't vibing this groove. Just let me know in the chat what you think. Is this something you guys are vibing? I think we could probably build some pretty cool stuff on this today. I think that's a nice, base to work with. I'm going to assume that everyone's cool with that because no one's screaming no in the chat. So we're just going to go ahead and start moving forward then. Still plenty of time to scream no in the chat if you're not vibing that. But I'm going to go ahead and just sort of assume that everyone's vibing that. I like the groove. Hey, cool, right on. Need some dark, super dark pads. All right, well, let's see what we can come up with then. What I think we'll do here is I've just got like our main lead synth in this groove muted. I'm just going to bring the volume down on that as well. And what I think I'd like to do might be to extract these grooves individually. 6 and 8 are what we don't necessarily need. Let me grab a pen and paper actually. 6 and 8 don't need. Okay, good deal. What I think I'd like to do is just go ahead and go to the export menu here and start exporting the individual stems of this groove. And I think we'll be able to export those directly from Playbeat, directly right into the Beatmaker 3 app. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start exporting these. I believe I can, click Beatmaker 3 here, and new sample, Playbeat loop, blah, 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 available in the samples directory. Fantastic. Let's continue exporting the rest of these out. Here's the second one. I'm going to scroll this over to Beatmaker 3. Cool. New Playbeat, loop available in the samples directory. We're going to go ahead and export the rest of these out as well. Here's number 3. Let's export that to Beatmaker 3. Okay. And then let's get number 4 and send that to Beatmaker 3. Whoops, to Beatmaker 3. And then let's see, 6 and 8 we don't need. So we're going to want 5 to Beatmaker 3. Okay. And then looks like maybe number 7 as well. 7 to Beatmaker 3. Fantastic. So what we've done there is we've just exported all of those sounds, those loops, individually out of Playbeat 3. So I'm going to go ahead and close that for now, and those samples should now be available to us in in the directory, our samples directory of Beatmaker 3. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that groove was at the tempo of 128 beats per minute. So I'm going to go ahead and set our project to the tempo of 128 beats per minute. And let's go over here to the samples folder and scroll down to the Playbeat section. And here I can actually see those loops. Here's our kick drum. There's our hat. I'm trying to decide where I want to put these. There's a snare. There's our bass lines. Put that on a different row for now. There's sort of our synth. Let's put that on a different row for now as well. Okay, so we've got the kick, the snare, the hats, the clap, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, cool. I believe we've got all of the parts there. Now, the very first thing that I notice is that when I play the kick here, there's a little bit of a click at the end of the sample. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and just go into the edit here. We're going to go ahead and just trim that out. And we can actually see right there, there's where the sample isn't, coming back to the zero crossing at the very end, which is creating a tiny little bit of a click for us in the sound. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight the very end of that sample, and I'm going to do a fade out. Maybe I'll do that twice so we, make sure there's no possibility of a click happening at the end of this kick drum. I'm also going to go ahead and just normalize the volume of this kick drum to start with so that we've got a really nice and loud sample. Let's go ahead and just save this. In the main sample directory for now, so that it knows we've got a new version of this sample and doesn't try to, have any issues in future loadings. So this is going to call this just kick edited, and good deal. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and save our project right off the bat. We're going to call this YouTube, and this is like a 128 BPM C minor session. And this is, I don't know, like 1121. Cool deal. Okay, so now that we've got it, saved at any time in the session, we can go ahead and just click the save button in the upper right here to save our project. I'm a chronic oversaver, and I encourage you all to be chronic oversavers as well. Cool. I just want to make sure that we can copy those session samples and into the actual folder. Good deal. Okay. Now we've got our kick drum, but there's no click at the end of it, which is what we're looking for. So what let's do is let's go ahead and create an 8-bar pattern to begin with. Let's see here. I'm just going to drag this out to 8 bars, and I'm going to drag the loop brace to match that as well. But the pattern itself is not an 8-bar pattern, until we tell it to be an 8-bar pattern. So if I go into the pattern duration here, I can make that an 8-bar pattern. Then, let's see here. Cool, we're already in the pattern window, and I can go ahead and just put these kick drums in on some quarter notes here. Let's just do that. And what is this? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Fantastic. Whoops. Just putting in some kick drums here. Whoops, I've got a couple of, got one in the wrong spot there. Whoops. Undo. Come on. Just trying to move that over one little click there. Now that we've got like 2 bars of these, we can just, oops, I still got one in the wrong place. Sorry about that. Okay, now we can, whoops, undo. I can go ahead and use the select tool to just grab these and duplicate. Then we can put them on the correct beat, and I can duplicate these out for the full 8-bar pattern real fast here. All right. Cool deal. So the first thing I need to do basically is just sort of recreate, that beat that we heard inside of the Playbeat app. Might actually be easier to just take this snare drum here and trim it out so that it's got its own, so we can, work with it as an individual sample per se. Let's see here. Just trying to get into the, I always have a little bit of an issue getting this to go away. Hang on one second here, and I'll figure this out. Oh, for Pete's sake. I'm just trying to get, oh, I don't remember all of a sudden. There we go. Okay, so now I can trim this sample out. We can go ahead and just get right in here and start trimming this out. I'm going to highlight that end piece there and do a little bit of a fade out. We're also going to process and go ahead and normalize this sample as well. And let's go ahead and just zoom right into the very beginning of this snare drum. Whoops, come on, right to that very beginning. Cool. And then let's trim that as well. And let's go ahead and save this in the main sample directory now that we've done a little bit of editing, and it's just an individual snare now. Let's just call this Playbeat snare and then some, numbers or whatever. Cool deal. Okay, let's go ahead and get that in at this time. Let's see here. All right, I've got a couple of extra ones in there that I don't want to be there. So let's get rid of those. There's that one there. Yeah, and that first one there, I'd rather not be there as well. So let's get rid of that extra one there. Delete. All right. I think we're going to need to bring the volume down on this snare just a little bit. And let me check the volume that I'm sending out to the mix. To the stream, rather. All right. Hopefully that's okay and not too loud. Mars Capone asks, what do I set the projects to? Typically, inside of Beatmaker 3, I don't know about all the other iOS DAWs specifically, but inside of Beatmaker 3, it's typically just going to be set to whatever the specifications are on your, can't really show it, on your audio interface here. Today we're using the Novation Audio Hub 2x4. And if we go into these settings here, we can make some changes, but I really recommend that, you don't. I leave it at 44.1, 24 bits for recording, not 16. A great place for the latency is 128 samples. If you need it to be a little bit tighter latency at the expense of your CPU, you might go down to 64 samples. Or if you need to get a little bit more CPU out of your machine, again, at the negative expense of latency, you can bring the buffer down to say 512 or 124. This iPad here is, I don't know, 2019 iPad Pro, I guess, and it seems to work really well just leaving it at 128 samples for the latency. Again, 44.1, 128 samples, and 24 bits. Okay. So super basic, recreation of that loop so far. Let's go ahead and save what we've done at this time. And then over here we've got this hi-hat loop with a little bit of a turnaround at the end. That's a 2-bar loop. We might as well go ahead and just leave that as a loop. Yeah, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into the pattern here. And let's see, over here on the left, it's populating, our menu with the names of those samples. So it might be better if we go in and relabel those at some point, so they're not all labeled, Playbeat loop, for example. But what we can do here is go back into the pencil tool mode, and then I can tell this to hold down for a full 2 bars because it's a 2-bar loop. Now we can just sort of, let's see here, we're going to duplicate that a few times so that it's now going to hold for the full 8 bars. Cool. And what we can do is we can tell this sample here, currently when I press play, it plays the whole sample in its entirety. It's in one-shot mode by default, but I'm going to tell it to go into hold mode, and now it only plays when I hold the sample down. It doesn't play when we just, tap the pad. All right. What happened to my hat? There we go. So now we've got the kick, we've got the hi-hat, and we've got the snare. What do we got over here? We've got just, a really basic clap. I don't think this needs to be a loop specifically, so we can go ahead and go into the edit screen, and we can just trim this out to a one-shot here. We can go in right to the beginning of that sound and get this start point right at the beginning of that sample and trim that. We can also process and normalize this so we get a nice loud level on it. Maybe we'll grab the end of that and do a quick fade out. So there's no possibility of clicks and pops there at the end. And since we've edited this sample, we might just want to resave this in our main sample directory as well. And maybe we just want to call this like play beat clap, and then I don't know, some numbers or whatever. So again, I'm just trying to make sure with those extra numbers and stuff that we don't end up with duplicate file names. Okay, so now we've got, let's see here. So we got this individual clap that we can work with, and maybe what we'll do here is go ahead and just put that in. All right, it's a little bit loud, I think, so I'll bring that down in the mix a little bit. I wanted to accent the snare drum, not completely take it over, if you get my drift. All right, I'm going to take just a second and check in with the chat. In the beginning, I know I'm a little bit, head in the book per se when we're starting to, get all these sounds. I don't want to miss any important questions or comments. Yeah, it would be awesome, Christo, if we ever get to see Logic Pro on iOS. We're all just sort of waiting for stuff like that to just break it wide open. If we were to get like Logic on iOS or like a version of Ableton on iOS, that would be just incredible, a total game changer. Until then, for me personally, I think Beatmaker 3 is like the most powerful DAW on iOS and the closest workflow that I can get to something like Ableton on the desktop. Hey, what's happening, Ives? Thanks for tuning in. All right. Let's see here. Okay, good deal. So what let's do is let's go ahead and name a few of these samples so that it gets a little bit less confusing to look at the project. Because again, everything is just labeled Playbeat loop, at this time. But if I highlight the pad that I want to, change the name on there, I just click the little buttons underneath and we can rename that. So we can call this first one kick. We can call this second one, rename snare. We can call this next one over here. This is our hats loop. So we can rename. This is our hats loop. And then this over here is our clap. So we can rename and go clap. Good deal. And then we can save at this time as well. Something that I often like to do in the beginning of these sessions when I'm importing samples and then, getting stuff started. There's every now and again, anomalies with Beatmaker 3 and like loading samples and whatnot. So often what I'll do is I'll just save the project and then I'll just close Beatmaker 3. And at the very beginning here, I'll reload the project and make sure that there's no anomalies with the samples. Open session and what did we call this? YouTube 128 C minor session. Great, load session. Okay, and it loaded just fine. There's no issues at this time. One of the things that's really important is when you're doing that sample editing that we did just a few minutes ago, that you resave the sample. Oftentimes, if you don't, resave that sample, it can get a little bit confused. Here we've got our bass, okay, so it looks like that is a 2-bar loop. So let's go ahead and get that in our pattern here. And let's see here, if I just double click, here's the pad that's highlighted. Again, we're going to want to rename that as well. But to get us started with, we can, let's see, actually I don't need to select that tool. I can just drag it out. I just need to drag it out for the full 2 bars, and we're going to duplicate that 3 times so that it's now an 8-bar pattern. What I need to do though is we need to tell it, don't play in its entirety every time I tap that pad. So we want to change it from a 1-shot to a hold mode. And now it only plays rather when we're holding down the pad. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and rename that at this time. Let's call this bass loop. Okay. And then while we're in this page, let's do the same thing with our, sort of mid synth line. And let's rename that to mid synth loop. Okay. And I think, let's see here. We want to change this from a one shot because currently, it plays in its entirety every time I tap the pad. We want to put that into hold mode instead so that we're in control of, how long that's going to play. I'm going to bring the release time down on that as well. So when I release, it really releases tightly. Let's see here. I'm guessing that's a 2-bar loop as well. Yes, it is. So if I go back into the pattern here, we can go to the beginning of the pattern and tap that in. We can tell it to hold for 2 bars. Okay, and then I can duplicate that all the way across. I'm going pretty fast today and not doing as quite as much explaining as I normally do. This is actually the 61st video that I have done on Beatmaker 3. So I'm just sort of assuming that a lot of you have seen some of those other videos and are already a little bit familiar with the app. So we're going a little bit, faster. It's not necessarily Beatmaker 101 today. If I'm going a little bit too fast or if you're confused at all, just drop a question in the chat and I'll do my best to clear that up and make everything understandable today. Okay, so now we've got our mid synth and our bass line. We might need to adjust some volumes to get our mix sounding all right. Looks like something's not quite holding out the way that I expected it to. I see. Looks like our synth loop is actually just more of a 1-bar pattern than a 2-bar pattern. So for now, I can go ahead and just shorten these notes that are holding down the pad to a 1-bar instead of a 2-bar and duplicate these out. Looks like there's a weird extra thing there, actually. Nope, it was just the playhead. Okay, no worries. Just want to make sure. Okay, and duplicate. Now I believe we'll be getting our pattern. Looks like I've screwed up the bass as well. Is everything just a 1-bar pattern and I'm assuming it's 2? No, but that bass is definitely a 1-bar pattern as well. Whoops, undo. So I'm going to make this hold for 1 bar, and then we'll just duplicate that out the same way that I did with our synth line. So it's only holding each of these for 1 bar. Come on. Cool. And nope, I don't want that. But rather, we want to duplicate that out instead. All right, and one last time. Now, I believe we've actually got our groove recreated finally. Kind of liking the way that this is sounding. I'm wondering if I might be able to do a little bit of variation on this synth groove already. I see. They are 2-bar loops. I was just reading the interface incorrectly or something, and I guess I had put them to 4 to start with. No, what am I guess I'm just tripping. All right. So let's see, if I zoom in all the way, yeah, it's just, okay. I'm still trying to make it a 2-bar. Maybe what I want is to duplicate that twice and then hold it out for the full bar. Nope, that's not quite what I'm after either. Hold on, pad 9. That's the bass, that's why. Okay. Just undo a couple of times there to get that. What I want, I think, is I want this mid synth line to maybe repeat half a bar and then half a bar and then play the full bar pattern to get a little bit more variation in that loop. I'm not sure if that'll work or not. Yeah, I kind of like in the way that that's sounding. In fact, I actually might want to do the opposite there, which would be to play it a full measure and then play 2 half measures. Let's find out. Actually, maybe it's, bear with me, maybe it's this, and then on the 4th one, maybe it's half and half. So then we go back on 5, 6, 7, and then on this 8, Maybe we break that in half and duplicate that. I'm just trying to get a little tiny bit more interest in that synth line there for us. Are we sending enough level to the stream now that we're getting started? Can you guys hear this groove okay? Because I can send more level out to the stream if we need to. Let's go ahead and save at this time. And I think what we'll do is to start getting some effects in the mix so that we can send our mid synth line here to a little bit of like delay and reverb. If I go over to the mixer page here, we've got an auxiliary send 1 and auxiliary send 2. We can have up to like 8 auxiliary sends if we want to. Looks like we might need actually to remember to put that limiter on the master bus though. I love to put a limiter plugin on my master bus so that it keeps our volume on the master bus from going over the 0 decibel limit. And that helps protect our ears, our headphones, and our speakers. So let's go ahead and get that set up before we do the reverb and the delay. If I just select the main out and I select audio effect, here it's got, O main out selected, and I can add an audio effect there. Just going to save before we do this, and we're going to add an audio unit, and we're just going to add the Amazing Noises limiter. This is my favorite limiter to use, and basically this attenuation meter over here on the right is going to show us how much it's keeping our mix under that 0 decibel limit. If this is moving just a little bit, that's exactly what we want. What we don't want is we don't want it like pushing our mix down like 15, 20 decibels. That means we're sending it too much level, and we'll want to bring our level back on our tracks. Let's see how we're doing right now. See how we're getting just a tiny little bit of attenuation here? That's just keeping our snare basically when that hits is really loud. So this is just sort of helping it keep everything in line and gluing our mix together. I often like to turn this saturation up a tiny little bit, maybe to like, I don't know, 0.8 or something, just a tiny little amount. All right. Now that we've got that set up, let's go ahead and get some reverb and delay in our mix, shall we? What I like to do is I like to put an EQ on my sends before the effect. And I like to put that EQ, let's see, I'll show you what I mean. I like to put this EQ up to about 600 hertz on a low cut. So it removes any low frequencies from going into the effect that we're going to put after that. So we don't end up with like mud in our reverb or mud in our delay. Let me go ahead and do the same thing here. We're going to carve off any frequencies from going into effects auxiliary send number 1 and auxiliary send number 2. So on auxiliary send number 1, let's put some delay. Oh, I don't know. Let's use the dub station 2 delay today. And on the reverb, let's put, I don't know, might just get easy with it and use the black hole reverb from Eventide. That might be a great option here. Black hole, hold on. There we go, black hole. All right, so what we can do now is we can maybe start trying to get a little bit of effects happening on our mid synth line. If I open up our bank here, whoops, and I start muting some of the parts that we're not looking to add effects on right now, but I just want to worry about this mid synth line. Let's put a little bit of delay on that. Put a little bit of reverb on that. That's a lot of reverb. I'm just using the default settings of those plugins right now. If this didn't sound good, we might, try to adjust that. Maybe a little bit of reverb on this clap would be nice. Just a little, Dean. And maybe just a little bit of effects on this hat would be nice as well. So maybe a little bit of that delay, and also a tiny bit of this reverb maybe. Maybe we'll put that snare to the reverb just a tiny little bit as well. All right, how's that sounding at home? Is that sounding okay, you guys? Samuel says, might need to balance the audio of the mic and the music because I'm getting a little bit loud. All right, let me turn the mic up just a little bit. Just want to make sure that you guys can still hear that music, okay? Turn this mic up a little. All right. Let me know if that starts distorting anyone's phone or anything. And I think this is the time to start getting really interesting because we've got the groove pretty much recreated now inside of Beatmaker 3, and it's pretty much time to start adding something new. Now, again, this groove is in the key of C minor, and one of the neat things about the Korg EMX-1, this vintage box from like 1996, is it's got like 256 patterns or something like that built right into it, and all of those patterns are in the key of C minor. So if we can MIDI sync up the EMX with our groove here on Beatmaker 3, and then just randomly start checking out some of these sounds and see how they may or may not gel with the groove that we're creating here. How we're going to accomplish that today is we're going to be using the iRig MIDI 2 from IK Multimedia. It's just a USB to MIDI adapter. I've got it plugged in to the audio interface, but if you're not using the Novation Audio Hub, you'll be using a powered USB adapter to plug in your MIDI controllers and your audio interface to your iPad. You'll just plug in the iRig MIDI 2 to your powered USB hub that's plugged into your iPad, and then you can get 5-pin MIDI in and out of the iPad. So I've already got that set up, and the MIDI here is actually going through a MIDI through box underneath the desk, and it is sending MIDI to both the EMX-1 and also to the Quasimidi Raven. And what I think we can do, I'm turn the volume down a little bit on the Korg because it can be a little loud, is we're going to go back into Beatmaker 3, and we're just going to double check that these settings are set up to send MIDI clock to external devices. So if I just go to the gear icon, the settings page here, we can see that in our MIDI input and output devices, the iRig MIDI 2 is showing up. We can see that under the sync section, MIDI clock out is turned on. So that is syncing the clock output. Okay, it's sending that out, and it's sending that out to the output device, iRig MIDI 2. It's highlighted here, and it's set to sync. So we've got, again, the MIDI clock out and the output devices. This is turned on, and it's set to sync. We don't need to worry about the input. All I need to do is make it so that when I press play on Beatmaker 3, that it also turns the Electribe on. And if I move the camera this tiny little bit, is all I can scoot it there, you can maybe see that that play button does in fact light up on the Electribe when I press play now on Beatmaker 3. Okay, fantastic. And what we can do is inside of Beatmaker 3, maybe we can, pick a empty blank pad. Maybe we just save one more time before we start doing this, right? And then what we want to do is we'd like to maybe record in audio on this pad. So if I just press the record button, it's going to bring up our, audio recording window. I can tell it where to record. Currently, by default, it's got, no input. So if I touch that, we can go to hardware input, and then here's where your audio interface is going to show up. We're using, again, the Novation Audio Hub 2x4. I could select a stereo input, or I could select either left or right if I want to record a mono signal. This is going to be a stereo input, so we're going to go ahead and click Audio Hub 2x4 1 and 2. And I just want to make sure that the monitor switch is on. This allows us to hear the audio that's coming in. And currently, if I press play down here at the bottom, this is our sequencer control. So I'm actually starting Beatmaker 3. Okay, and I can stop that while I'm in the recording screen. And what I can do here, I'm going to change the camera angle so you can see a little better, is I've currently got the volume down on the EMX-1, but if I press play in the sampler window, the EMX-1 is actually moving now, and if I start turning the volume up, we start hearing that coming through on Beatmaker 3. It's a little, you know, busy and over the top because, I'm going to stop here, because the Electribe is a full groove box. You know, it has like 8 tracks here for drums and 5 tracks for melodic elements. This is just the very first pattern inside of the box. We're not even going to scroll anything yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mute all of the drum tracks, and I'm just going to mute all of the melodic tracks. And we're going to one by one just unmute the melodic content of this groove and potentially some other grooves and see if we like any of it to use to match with what we're creating over here inside of Beatmaker 3. So now that I've muted all of these parts, if I press play in Beatmaker 3, we're hearing the groove that we created, but we're not hearing anything from the Electribe. I can just start unmuting these tracks one by one and see if anything that was, you know, on that track, maybe if we like it and would like to sample it and use it in our track. Ooh, there's an interesting vocal right here. What do you guys think about that vocal? I kind of like it. You guys like that? Should we sample that in and use that in our track? What do you think? Hey, what's happening, Keith? Thanks. Let's go ahead and just sample that in. Maybe we'll use it, maybe we won't use it. But I think it sounds pretty cool. And if we see here on Beatmaker 3, see that's got a pretty good recording level. I'm going to start recording that in. We're going to go ahead and stop there, and then I can press stop on the sequencer control lane as well. Now if I just X out that window, we can take a look here and we'll see that, you know, we can visually see our recording. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and just start trimming this out. We're going to go into the edit screen. I'm going to hit trim. Let's get in there. Actually, I believe some of that tail. I'm going to go into the beginning, very beginning of the sound here so we can get right in on the start of this one. Okay, and we're just going to trim that out. And I think we're also going to bring the volume up on this a tiny little bit. Let's go process and normalize, but we don't actually have to normalize the sample. We can actually just choose any amplitude that we'd like. So like bring it up to like -4 basically. Just bring it up a little bit. Cool. Now if I play it, we can hear what the end sounds like, and I can you know, decide how much room I want to leave at that end. I think we're going to leave all of that air, maybe go right to about here, and then just do a fade out. Try that one more time. Yeah, cool. Let's go ahead and save this now. Let's go ahead and just put this, why not, the main sample directory. And let's just call this EMX. And this is kind of like a YAI synth. And then maybe just some extra numbers there so it's got a really distinct name. All right, fantastic. And we can go ahead and save at this time. Now we've got that sound in our session. We don't necessarily need to get that, you know, right in. And what I can do is we can go ahead and mute the track that was on, and go ahead and just play the groove again. See if maybe another one of the sounds from this pattern maybe gels with what we're creating here. Let me unmute track 4 this time. There's not necessarily a part on every single track, so sometimes it's just empty. What I didn't do though was go back to our sampling window so that we can hear what's coming in. So we'll need to make sure that we've done that. I just need to make sure that when I choose a pad and I open up the sampling window, I just need to make sure that I choose the monitor on so we can hear the input that's coming in here. All right. Doesn't sound like there's anything on this particular track. Don't really care for the sound that's on track 3 here. Let's hear track 2. Ooh. That's a really simple, but it changes too much. Yeah, I don't like the way that it's a little bit too much variation on that pattern. So currently, we've got one interesting pattern out of the EMX that slots with our groove. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to change it to a different groove. I'm not even looking what groove this is. Okay, turns out it's A51, which is called IDM number 7. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. We're just going to mute all of the tracks inside of the EMX, and I'm going to play our groove. We're just going to unmute some of these tracks to see if there's anything that we'd like to sample. Not that. Kind of just a sustained pad sound here. I'm not sure that it really, I think it maybe holds our groove down a little. I don't know how else to say that. I'm not sure that we want that. So I'm going to mute that and try a different groove instead. I don't think that's going to do it for us either. Not sure this is quite right either. It's kind of a little bit too, I don't know what it is too. It's just not quite right, I think. So I'm going to scroll to a different groove inside of the EMX. And we're going to go ahead and do that same thing. We're going to mute all of these parts. I'm going to press play over here on Beatmaker 3. And we're just going to start unmuting some of these parts and see what happens. That's kind of a nice hit right there. I think we're just going to start sampling that right in. Yeah, that's a useful hit, I think. It's got some effect on it. All right. Cool. Excuse me 1 second here. Okay, all right. So we've got that sampled here. That's just a fun little hit that maybe we can use every now and again. Right on. Let's go ahead and let's label that real fast. This is like an effects swish hit. And then this one over here we can label as well. And that's kind of like a YAI synth. And we'll just label that as well. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and highlight another pad here. I'm just going to hit record, and now we can just keep doing the same thing. I can keep listening to more of these sounds, and we'll see if anything else jumps out at us that we would like to sample. Not necessarily a part on every track. Doesn't seem to be one on this track. Let's try the next one. Doesn't seem to be one on that one either. So let's go to the next pattern, or maybe just a few more patterns. And let's go ahead and mute all of these. And let's play our track. And just start unmuting a few of these. That's not good. Let's try another one. Not what we're looking for. Kind of interesting, but not really what we're looking for. little off sounding maybe. That's fine. Let's go up and go to another pattern. And what I'd like to do is if we can, you know, maybe get one other part, you know, out of the EMX or something, that'd be a great start. And we can hopefully find something that we can really use to like add to the main groove that we've got here. Let me go ahead and mute these tracks on this new pattern and start unmuting things. I don't think that's quite right. Another little effect sound on that one. Not quite what we're looking for. A really big bassy sweep, not quite what we're looking for. A little weird IDM hit, and that's really not like what we're looking for. All right, well, we're not batting 1,000 yet with the EMX-1, and that's fine. That's the beauty of random and just, you know, chilling out, being creative in these sessions. It doesn't have to just lock in right, you know, off the jump. Let's go ahead and start with this new pattern here. And I'll start unmuting these tracks. Oh, come on. Nothing on this one? All right. Nothing on this one either, really? Ooh. I'm not sure. You guys know I love the dub, but I'm not sure that the vibe on that chord is quite what we're after either. I see it's on a band. What if I put it on a low pass filter? Yeah, it's not quite right. It's very cool though. Trying a different track here. Again, that's not quite right. All right, let's go to the next pattern and try again. Part mute. I'm going to mute all of these tracks. All of these tracks, I believe. Cool. And let's try this pattern here. And just start unmuting some of these. Almost, not quite. Doesn't appear to be anything on track 4. Let's try 3. Hey, what's happening, Omri Cohen? Thanks for tuning in. Hey, we got Hitchiturus in the chat. All right, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hey, Keith. All right. What's happening, Michael? We're not really finding a whole lot that's just jumping out at us. We found 2 things actually, you know, pretty easily. But you know, since then it's been a little bit hit and miss, mostly miss. Let's go ahead and try one more pattern though out of the EMX, and then if we don't find anything to sample out of this pattern, we'll move on and maybe try to sample something out of the Quasimidi Raven today. Start unmuting some of these melodic tracks. That's not right. Nope. All right. Not exactly what I'm trying to get today. So what I'd like to try to do then is go ahead and switch this up. We're going to take the outputs from the back of the Electribe here, and we're going to route those into the back of the Raven instead. And I'm going to make sure I got left into left here. All right. Turn the volume up on the Raven a little bit. I don't want to start with it being too loud. Let's bring this volume down. Fantastic. And I believe if I play the groove here and then do a little bit over here, So the Raven is now in sync with our project. The level's a little bit low. Um, I don't necessarily have a way to easily uh, fix that super easily. Hopefully we can just scroll through a few more of these sounds. But the neat thing about the Raven is that it's got these randomization features in it. It has 400 melodic poly parts built into it that are all in the key of C minor, and it has 400 like synthesizer like mono synth lines as well that are built into it. And we can just keep randomizing these and see if anything from the Raven sort of gels with what we're creating. I can just sort of randomize it, and we can see what it spits out. That's a really neat little 90s pattern there. Not quite what we're looking for. I'm just hitting randomize on the Raven. That almost goes, but it's just not quite right, so we'll keep randomizing. You guys know I love those chord stabs, but that's not really what we're looking for either, I don't think, today. Ooh, big funky chord stabs. Next. Very 90s sounds that we're getting out of the Raven. But I'm hoping to find something that doesn't just scream 90s and maybe just kind of gels with what we're creating. I think this is a pretty straightforward pad right here. Sounds pretty good in the mix. Get it a little bit louder, and I can bring down a little bit of their inbuilt reverb. I think I like the way this pad sounds. We could maybe sidechain compress it against the kick drum and get it kind of pumping a little bit in the mix. Yeah, let's sample this in. Okay, let's go ahead and sample that in. What we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and, let's see, I'm going to bring the monitor all the way to the bottom. Let me just get this recording. Fantastic. Now what I can do is press play. 3 and 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8, 2, 3, 4, stop. All right. I just want to make sure that, as I'm recording it, that I'm recording quite a large amount of it so that I can sustain that for quite a long time throughout our track if we want to. So let's see here. Let's start trimming this out, shall we? And let's just kind of get right in on the start point of that sound. Like, I think I might want it to be a little bit further in when it starts. Just really, let me see here. Just a tiny little bit. So we lose a little bit of that soft attack is what I'm after, and we get more of a hard attack on our sound. Yeah, that's what I'm after right there. So let's go ahead and trim it there. And then if I zoom all the way out, let's go ahead and do this normalize thing again. But I'm not going to normalize it because if we do, it's going to be really, really loud. What I want to do is just make it a little bit louder. So maybe we're going to go ahead and normalize it to, I don't know, like -6 decibels or something like that. And that's going to bring it up in volume, quite a bit. but not all the way. Maybe we'll do that a little bit more as well. Maybe we'll normalize it to like, I don't know, 3 instead of 6, giving it a little bit louder still. Cool, apply. That's looking a little bit more like what I'm after. Let's go ahead and save this recording now. We're going to save this to just to the main sample directory. And this was from the Raven. This is a C minor pad. And then let's just give it some random numbers just to be on the safe side. Fantastic. Okay. We want to go ahead and reload. Actually, it probably doesn't matter. But let's give these a name. Yeah, so let's see how down here it still says, you know, just audio hub and like, you know, the date or whatever. Let's rename this. So let's just call this, we'll call this Big Pad 1. Big Pad 1. Cool. And then we'll save at this time. I think I want to do a tiny little bit of EQ on this pad itself. And this is a neat thing about Beatmaker 3. We're just using a really simple workflow today. It's just a one bank workflow. I just keep loading pads onto the, sounds onto the individual pads in this bank. And the reason that I'm not worried about like trying to add a new track for every sound and all that is because we can just mix and EQ these directly like this. We don't need to have everything on its own track. If I click audio effects and then I tap the pad here, it changes from the whole bank of sounds that I want to affect to just the individual pads. And now I can select any of these pads that I want, and now it says, pad 12, big pad 1. I'm just affecting that one pad only, not the whole bank. So I can put an EQ in and put it just on that pad that we've sampled the new pad onto, for example. I can load up the Pro Q3 here from FabFilter. And then, whoops, if I play our sound, here's our sound here. I can get a really good visual representation of what's, that sound is actually doing. And we can do a little bit of EQ on that if we want to. Come on, get right in on, come here, you. Just bring that peak down a tiny little bit there. And maybe a little bit of a... And what I want to do on this pad as well, on this pad per se, not the pad sound, but on this pad here, is I want to tell it not to play that whole pad in its entirety every time I hit the pad. So we changed it from a one shot to a hold. And now it only holds down when we hold the pad down. But the thing here is that, there we go, is that I can adjust the release of that and make it really tight if I want. So when we do let up on the pad, it really lets go and doesn't like have a big release, hanging out there still. But we can make it really tight. I think we're going to leave it right about there for now. Let's go ahead and save at this time. And let me just play the groove. Second. Okay, what I think I'd like to do is try to put this pad in and then get it side chaining against the kick drum. So if we go to our pattern, let me close out our bank 1 here so that we can actually get to the pattern. Double tap there and we can get to the pattern. Here's our big pad 1, and this is pretty much a full 8-bar part, but I think we'll probably just hold it down for 4 bars and then duplicate it. So there's 4 bars and then duplicate. So now that pad should kind of be in our groove here. And I think it's, a little bit too loud right now, so we're going to bring it down a little bit by default. And then what we're going to do is try to make a little bit of sidechain compression sort of pumping happen on this pad. If I go over to the audio effects and I make sure that we're on just this pad, so I change from, bank 1 to the little pad icon here. Now I'm affecting individual pads, and I can select any of these pads I want to, right? So just on the pad, we're going to put the dynamics processor, and we're going to leave it to its sidechain input mode here. I just need to select the kick drum for it to duck against. And there we go. Select track, kick. And now all we need to do is I can bring that attack down to 0. The lower I bring the threshold down now, the more we're going to hear that sort of side chain pumping effect happen on the pad. I like to use about a 4-to-1 ratio for this. So if I bring this all the way down here, we can really get that dramatic, you know, where it's only just a pumping on the off beats. But we don't necessarily need it to be quite that extreme. We can just kind of keep it ducking behind our instruments a little bit. Maybe we can go over to the mixer page. And let's see here. On that big pad, maybe we can give it some delay and some reverb. Sounds pretty cool. It's a little loud in the mix. Let's bring it down. I also think we might want to try to low pass filter it a little bit. So let's turn a low pass filter on. Sort of tuck it back in the mix a little bit. This allows our mid synth to have its own sort of room in the mix to breathe. Maybe we pan this, I don't know, like 5 to the left. And maybe we take our mid synth, which is what, here? Yeah. And maybe we pan this one like 5 to the right, so that they're just off of that, you know, center point, just a tiny little bit, one over here and one over here, so that our drums can really, you know, lock to that center, you know, point per se. Let's go ahead and save at this time. I think I just hit undo, but it's still panned to the right, so that's fine. Okay, let's see here. Let's hear what we've got, and I'm going to check in with the chat real fast. Thanks for hanging out with me, everyone. Ooh, that's a great suggestion from Big John. All right, and then we've got, whoops, I'm hitting the wrong button on that as well. We've got an interesting point from Samuel as well about using the step modulator to amplitude to get sort of a gating effect happen on this pad. Yeah, I like, I also, there's one, I want Callum Audio, I think makes it, some sort of an interesting gating effect plugin that I keep always meaning to try, but then seem to forget. What is that called? Like Mini something or other? Maybe we can find that. Maybe that's something we could try. And if not, then maybe Filter Step might be, and actually maybe Filter Step is just the way to go. I don't know. We've got options. I love it. Okay, let's on the big pad. Okay, fantastic. Let's go ahead and see what we've got here. Audio units. I do have, you know, Filter Step and Gate Lab ready to go. There's also another one that I really like, which is, I believe, Perforator from Brambos. But there it is, Flux Mini from Calum Audio. I believe this is like an interesting gating effect as well that I just keep meaning to use. If I'm not mistaken, this was like a free download. I can't remember. I'm sorry if it wasn't, guys. What do we've got? What do we've got here? What do we've got here? Let's see. Let's just let me just, come on. How hard or not hard is it to change these? It's not. I just want to get back into the. Most of these are basically just, you know, side chain pumping stuff. Grid snap on. I would say this should probably be on. But there's all sorts of stuff here, like, you know, triplets and others. Let's just see what we can do. I have no experience using this plugin at all, is the thing. Let's see here. rhythm there. Yeah, this isn't really giving us a lot of sauce per se because we've already got that sidechain effect happening on it. So instead of worrying about that, let's go ahead and go with that original idea of something like filter step and see what happens when we throw filter step on our pad. Cool, maybe a little bit less on the dry wet and maybe we're in already. That gives our pad a little bit more life and movement right there. That was a great suggestion, Big John. Yeah, I really like the way this is sounding. Just a little bit of extra life and movement to that pad. Maybe a tiny bit less. Can we get away with that? All right. I think maybe what we could do with this groove at this point would be to add another like high frequency metallic percussion, like a ride cymbal maybe, to even out some of those high frequencies in the mix. I've got a bunch of rides here from my sample packs. Maybe we'll just see if we can find one that won't be too dramatic on that high frequency, but give us just that tiny little shimmer on the top, that ting, 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 you know, to help like sort of push the momentum forward when we do a double time on that. Let's save. And what I can do, maybe I'll leave this pad open for like a crash or something, and maybe we'll just, I don't know, load something onto this pad here. In fact, if I just play the groove, and we go scrolling through some samples here. Oh, let's see here. I think I have some usable rides on my reflective sample pack. Oops. Maybe that one. Trying to change the tuning here a little. Come on. And I think maybe we could put like a high pass filter on this ride cymbal. Yeah. Bring that down in the mix. And maybe pan it to the right a little bit. I don't know, like 8. Just trying to see if I like to pitch anywhere else other than the default. I think it was best at the default, maybe. To kind of tuck that ride behind the hi-hats so it's not overwhelming the hi-hats. All right, let's go ahead and save at this time. We've got an interesting little groove going here. Let's go ahead and see if we can actually start some sort of arrangement happening on this if we can. What I'd like to do maybe is to bring this pattern maybe to the like 9 instead of 8. And maybe what we want to do is just duplicate this. And so now we have a pattern 1 and a pattern 2. If I go into our pattern browser, I can actually change our pattern 2. We can rename this to like intro kind of thing. And then we could rename our pattern 1 to like, you know, main groove 1 or something like that. So now we've got our intro and our main groove 1. And if I sort of, zoom in, I don't know if you can read that on the live stream, but it labels them in the actual patterns on the timeline here, making it all that much easier to see what's going on. And then maybe for the intro pattern here, oh, I see what's going on pad 11, which is our ride. If I go into the pattern, it's put that downbeat over here on the downbeat there of 9, which is actually not, where it goes. So we'll delete that. And if we go to the beginning here, we'll see that it actually missed putting it in on that very downbeat. So I'll just put that in manually by hand, and we'll go ahead and save at this time. But so for the intro, we probably don't want the ride to happen actually. So what I really need to do is fix that exact anomaly in the main groove instead. So let's do that. Let's remove it there from the beginning of, bar 9 and put it there at the beginning of bar 1. Now we can, scroll back and forth between the patterns that we're working on here. So make sure that I'm highlighted on intro. And what we can do is just like start deleting things that we know, we don't want to be in the intro. Like we don't want the ride to come in, right at the very beginning. So we can just take that away. Let's see here. Let's just play the pattern. Yeah, we probably don't want the pad to come in yet at the very beginning, our pumping pad rather. So that's like track 12. We can get rid of that. And maybe, actually, maybe we'll undo that, and maybe we'll take away our drums, but leave everything else. What does that do? Man, maybe we'll delete that pad and just leave these other two. Yeah, I'm liking the way that this is sounding. And what I'd like to do is to like put the kick drum on the downbeat still. Let's see here. Yeah. And let's just duplicate that out. Just a little bit of a kick pattern to help us get the track started here. Just working a little bit on like the intro, build up, kind of thing. Put in another one of those there. Oops, there, yeah. And then maybe we'll put a little tiny pause. See if that half of a measure is going to be enough of a pause. 3. Yeah, I think it will be. All right, let me go ahead and save what we've done there. And to help with sort of the ebb and flow of I'm starting to work really casually on the arrangement part of things now, so we can just start fleshing it out in the, in the arrangement page, in the arrangement view. And so to do that and to help with the ebb and flow, I find it's best to just have an impact sound that we can kind of, use to sort of set off the different sections of our track, like psh, kind of a thing. So let's go ahead and just load the typical impact sound that I use in pretty much every track that I make here. And we can just grab that. Oh, whoops. Let's go to Dean's effect sounds. There we go. I believe I've got it in here. Yeah, there it is. So we can just sort of put that kind of a sound in to help, sort of with that ebb and flow, and letting the listener know that things are happening and changing and, sticking to the, like 8-bar grid per se. Cool. Maybe we'll go ahead and pan that crash a little bit to the right as well, maybe like 10 to the right, so it's not, hitting directly on that center line with the rest of our drums. Looks like it's already pretty much labeled. I can go ahead and save at this time. And maybe we'll just put that in, let's do it. Right in on the downbeat there. And then I believe we can do the same thing. 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. Trying to put it in on the beginning of this one as well. Doesn't look rather like I got it. So let me just put that in by hand. And there we have it. So now we've got that in at the beginning of both patterns here. Yeah, cool. All right, let's hear what that sounds like. A little bit of an intro, and then there's a tiny little bit of a pause before we actually bring in like the main groove there. Hey, what's happening, Joe? Thanks for tuning in. Hey, Steve, what's happening? Hey, what's happening, Mattias? All right, so what let's do is I think, we can't really just necessarily bring in all of our groove right there on measure 9. So let's go ahead and we're going to duplicate that exact main groove again. So now we've got like a main groove 1 and a main groove 2. But that's, again, not what we really want either. So I'm going to move that main groove 2 out of the way. And we're still going to consider this main groove 1. That's our full groove, with the ride cymbal and the pads and everything. So main groove 2 is really a lie. It's not really main groove 2. So we're going to relabel that. And this is really like building into the main groove. I love that we can label, our patterns anything we want. It doesn't have to be like pattern 1, pattern 2, and then let's say you load this up a month from now and you're like, well, what the heck is pattern 2? That means nothing to me, You can label them whatever you want. So if I load this track up in a month from now, it's going to be really obvious to see what, the patterns are based on how I'm labeling them here, Here's our intro, here's what we're building into the main groove, here's where we start the main groove, you know what I mean? So what I want to do is on this pattern here, which is, our building in to the main groove pattern, I want to get rid of that pad, which is a 12, 12. So we're going to highlight A12 and get rid of that. And then also, we're going to not bring the ride in yet as well. So that's on A11. We can get rid of that ride symbol. And let's hear how to save as well. And let's hear what this is starting to sound like now as we transition from our intro into like, a little more, but not everything yet. Quite a bit better, I think. All right. Yeah, we basically need a little bit of a pause now so that there's some sort of an actual transition between, our build up and then dropping them into that main groove. I'm not 100% sure on that pad sample at this time. I'm feeling like maybe it's not quite right for what we're building here. But we're going to keep pressing forward regardless. And what I'd like to do is on this second, build up pattern here, we're just going to make that same kind of tiny little drop. We're going to start with the half of a bar pause and see if that's enough. And if not, then maybe we'll work it into a full bar pause. Let me go ahead and put that halfway and get rid of those there. So now we've got just a half bar pause at the end of bar 8. Let me save what we're doing there as well. And so I definitely want some sort of a riser sound happening here. We're at the key, the tempo rather, not the key, the tempo of 128. And I believe I might actually have some riser samples that have a little bit of that pumping fluctuation built into them that are already saved at this tempo. So let's find out. I do, as a matter of fact. We've got 128 pumping riser. So we've got just a little bit of that, pumping built into this noise riser by default. I believe that's a 2-bar riser, if I'm not mistaken. Looks like pumping riser is on pad 15. So we'll go ahead and just put that in, and we're going to hold that down. And we're still going to leave that tiny little pause at the end of the bar to help the listener's ear kind of clear out before we drop the new sounds on them. And so what I want is I want to make sure that the riser stops playing there and creates that pause as well. So we'll need to make sure that, right now when I tap the pad, it just plays the sample in its entirety, but we want to tell it not to. We want to tell it to be in hold mode instead. Bring the release down on that a tiny little bit. And now when I let go of the pad, it stops, playing our sample. I can also put like a high pass filter on this by default and get rid of any potential low frequencies that may be hiding out in that sample. And then, let's see, we've already got it in and we've already got it told to stop. So let's hear this in context in our track here. I'm going to go back just a little bit before our second part here. And we're listening for this transition here. Yeah, that little spot there is perfect, and doing something like that would also give us room to potentially drop like a vocal sample in there to cue off the section changing or anything like that. Let's just make sure we're saved at this time. All right, I think that's going to work for now. Let's just do one more thing to that transition before we move on, and let's put a little bit of an impact as it does the pause. Let's put a little bit of like a bass drop, a sort of a boom kind of a thing. I feel that that sort of really helps the listener understand that something is about to change as well. Oh, so we're going to put that like right when that beat drops. Let's load up that bass drop onto like this pad here. So I'm just going to go into back into Dean's effect sounds. I believe we'll have a bass drop in here, and we do. That should work. And we're going to need to bring that way down in volume so it doesn't explode anyone's phone. I'm going to put a tiny, 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 tiny high pass filter on it so that it doesn't just, sub us all the way out. Yeah, that's really deep, and we want it to be very subtle. If you're on your phone, you're probably not even hearing this sound at all because it's very, very low. This is basically just what's called a bass drop. And so, where did it put that? It's on pad 6. Cool. So we wanted to put that drop here right as our beat is stopping. So we're going to go ahead and just put that right there. All right, and now when we hear this in context, we'll just get that one little extra accent there as our pattern is changing. See what that sounds like. All right over here. All right, we are really close now. I think all I want to do is just put our regular kick drum to actually happen when that happens. So we still get that sort of impact of the kick happening with that sort of down, bass drop deal. And okay, let's hear that into context, into our main groove, and then we can start working on going forward again, I think. Yeah, I'm liking the way that sounds. All right. And then now we've got the ride coming in, that full pad coming in. What I think we can do is maybe keep building up. And so maybe we could go ahead and not repeat that existing main groove 1, but duplicate it into a new pattern here so that it becomes yet its own pattern. I don't want to call it main groove 2 though. What I really want to call it is like main groove 1A. 1A. So we're going to go into the label here and just call that main groove 1A. And that's just going to let me know that it's, you know, a variation of that main groove and that we're just sort of continuing on with that. Let's go ahead and save at this time. And what I want to do now is I want to just go ahead and take our loop brace, come on, and I want to just loop that 8-bar loop of main groove 1A so that we can find yet one more thing that we can add on to this. We might be able to use, for example, like the yai sound that we've already sampled out of the EMX-1 or something like that. Let's see what we can get going here. So I just want to make that clear what I've done here. I just want to work on this 8-bar loop. I don't want to have to play the whole track, you know, every time. So I've changed our loop brace here up at the top to select those 8 bars. And as long as the beginning is there, even when I double stop, you know, when I press play, it knows that I only want to work on this section of the track. So we can just loop anything we want to work on, you know. Hey, what's happening, Gas? What's happening, Tim Mill? Thanks for tuning in, guys. All right. I think what I'd like to do is divide this into actually 2, you know, samples, because it's really 2 distinct kind of, you know, sections per se. There's an easy way we can do that, and let's try to do it the easy way for now. And let's see here. It's that pad, so I can just highlight the 3 dots here and go copy. I can pick an empty pad. I can pick these 3 dots, and I can go paste. We can put that onto that. I can rename the first one like Yai Synth 1. I can rename the second one like Yai Synth 2, right? And then I can just affect the start point of Yai Synth number 2 and get only that second half. We might even want 3 because there's really that extra hit there. It might be nice to have that on its own, you know? I don't like that little fade out at the end. I might need to approach this differently. No, that actually works. I just want to go into that first one now. Right, and now we can go and maybe just copy this one, copy, and put that on an empty pad, and we can paste that in. And I can just select the end here. So now we've split this up onto 3 different pads so that I have more control over these individual pieces. Right on. All right, what I want to do is I want to put all 3 of those sounds into the same choke group. And what that means is so they won't... Right now I can play both of these sounds at the same time, but they're really from the same track. And I don't actually want them to play over each other ever, basically. So I'm going to just select the first Yai, and I'm going to put that into choke group number 1. And I'm going to select the second Yai, and I'm going to put that into choke group number 1. Let's grab that third Yai and put that into choke group number 1. Now, they won't play over each other. Each time I hit one and then hit another one, it chokes the first one, if that makes any sense. We're going to go ahead and save at this time, and let me just play the pattern. Bizarre, yeah. All right, let's put something in. I'm just going to go ahead and record. Yeah. go ahead and let's see here. Did I? Looks like we got some of those in. What's happening? I see. I did the second half only. I see. Let's go ahead and just do that again then and be a little bit more in time. Let's delete those, and then I got the yai synth here. Let's delete that, and then where's that third one? Yai, and then yai, and then yai. There they are, and let's delete those as well. Bye-bye. And so let me just make sure that I'm doing this correctly. If I just hit double stop and try again. All right. There we go. What I'd like to do, let's go ahead and save at this time. What I'd like to do, I think, is solo that yai. Actually, they're on 3 different pads now. I see. So if I want to hear those yais in their entirety, if I can solo these 3 pads. Whoops, I just affected a volume and I didn't want to. Let me try to get that back to where it was. There we go. Where's that other yai? We got yai, yai, and yai. There it is. Okay, and solo rather. One. I think I want to do the tiniest little bit of EQ on these yai samples, basically. And how we can do that is I can just, select the first one. We can go to audio effects and make sure that we're on the individual pads. We can go audio units, V3. And I just want to scroll down and get the Pro Q3 EQ here. Load, yep. And we're going to put on the Dean's default setting. And we're going to just right about 1K. We're going to do a tiny little dip, right about like a so. All right, and then we're going to, I'll just do that individually, I guess, no worries. We'll go over to this one here, and we're going to do that same thing, audio units V3. And we're going to grab the Pro Q3. We're going to load that up, put my little default setting on it so that I can pull those lows up the tiniest bit. Then right about 1K, that tiny little dip there in the middle. We're going to do that one more time on the third yai sample. And we're going to bring down Pro Q, whoops, come on, audio unit, V3. And we're going to grab the Pro Q3. Cool. We're going to put my default setting on it. Come here. All right. Bring off those tiny little bit of lows. And then put this on 1K. Tiny little dip. Right about like a so. All right. Let's hear that. Oh, yeah. Let me hear this. Let me go ahead and save rather. And let's start hearing this in context and see if those are a little jarring when they come in or not. I'm just going to go back to our main groove, and we'll kind of go back and forth between the second groove where the yais are coming in and then that main groove. Also going to check in with the chat, make sure I'm not missing anything. Enjoy the micro freak, Samuel. Tell Doug I said hey. We're looking pretty good. For those of you who aren't super familiar with my live streams, I like to keep Ableton open on my Mac in the background, and I can use some visualizers to kind of keep an eye on the spectrum, the frequency spectrum rather, that we're creating. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, to get a really accurate representation of what we're creating because I'm on these headphones. So what I like to do is I like to use these visualizers inside of Ableton, and I'm going to show you what our groove looks like. So when I talk, my voice comes through these visualizers as well. But when I'm not talking, we're just getting a visual on the music. That's looking pretty good, pretty even. Nothing is jumping out at being, you know, really out of place, even when our new synth comes in. See how we're staying pretty even on this side? All right. Yeah, we definitely need a little bit of a roll going into that, you know, here we are adding more sounds section. So let's go ahead and just put that in real fast. I'm just going to press play. Then I'm going to hit record. And at the end of this 8 bars, I'm just going to punch in a little snare roll. A little bit of a something to let the listener know, like, hey, we're moving now, you know. I think what might be neat in the actual arrangement part that we're working on here would be to take that that groove that we've just created and then not repeat it, but duplicate it so that we can flesh it out even more and make it like a little bit more extreme. Now I'm just going to sort of, actually what we'll do I think is just, I think we've successfully introduced the yai sound to the listener per se, to where it's not like super jarring. And now I think it would be acceptable if we just build that up to a little bit more intense yai section per se. So let's see here. This is that should be 4 and this is 5, right? So this is a brand new pattern. And I don't want to call that, you know, main groove 1A1 rather, but this is really main groove 2A at this point, I guess, because we're going to continue, or actually no, it's main groove. It's really main groove 1B, I suppose, because we're still, you know, have most of the elements here from the main groove, and we're just adding that yai. So building into the main groove, then the main groove, and then 1A and 1B. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense with the labeling. I really like to keep my labeling making as much sense as I can, if you get my drift. And the reason being is, again, like if we come back to this project tomorrow, we're not going to have any problems remembering, you know, what's here and what we've done. But if we take a week or 2 weeks or even a month or 2 months before we come back and work on this project again, it'd be really nice if it's just easy to see exactly what's going on without having to second guess anything. So I'm a really big proponent of labeling everything properly as you're going. All right. So what we want to do here is we want to get a little bit more intense of a yai thing happening on this section here. So in fact, we could even label it that way. We could call it, you know, main groove 1B parentheses more yai, right? So it's really obvious what we've done there. It's the more yai section. Cool. And again, if you're not familiar with these, I'm calling these like yai synths. Yai, you know, kind of a tonality there. All right, so if I just play the groove now, it's going to be playing that section, the more yai section. The goal is just to get more yai in there. I'm just going to hit record and hope to get lucky. Let's go. And now what we can do is sort of play that back now that I'm not tapping it in and see how that, you know, sounds, if it's too much or if it works. Pretty frenetic here. I'm digging it. And what we'll do, I think, to help the transition that'll be coming, after this pattern here, is go ahead and just start making a break here, because I can already hear that it needs to be there. So let's see. Oh gosh. Okay, perfect. I just need to get back to where I can read the track names again. So I want to make a 1-bar break at the end of this new section. So let's see here. If I delete that, that's only half a bar. So here's our full bar break. I want to get rid of our pad, so I'm going to bring that back. I'd like to take our ride cymbal out of that little 1-bar break. So we're going to highlight that and take it out. I'm going to leave it on the downbeat of the break. I'm going to leave the yais in. I think we need to remove the bass to remove the sub frequency weight here for 4 beats, and then we're pushing the listener off into another section. We're going to leave that yai in, I think, and whoops, I need to, this is a loop, so I just need to shorten that hats loop. Everything else is a one shot, and our hi-hats are actually a little bit of a loop. So here I've left in the downbeat hits, and then just those 2 yai sounds kind of going back and forth in that tiny little section here. I think we'll be able to add the riser in again, but maybe, we'll only have it. It's actually a 2-bar riser, but maybe, this riser here, maybe we can just put it in, and whoops, maybe we can just put it in and only go to that, to that drop. So it starts to lift. The listener's going to hear that a tiny little bit, but then we are going to break here. So in fact, that bass drop would probably be appropriate there as well, so that we put a little bit of emphasis on this drop per se. Let's go ahead and save at this time, and let's hear how that sounds and how we can maybe actually hear that this is sort of working as we want. Is maybe we can just highlight the whole thing so that it loops around to the beginning, and we can just kind of hear that in context. Let's go ahead and just play this. So we're going to play it from the beginning. Again, for those of you who might have missed the beginning of this session, what we did today is we started with the Playbeat app from Audio Modern. I really love this new drum machine creative groove randomizer app from Audio Modern, Playbeat. I've got a free pack of 25 drum kits available on their website right now for Playbeat, and I've just done a second pack of 25 drum kits and groove kits for Playbeat. So we loaded up one of those new groove kits that I've made for Playbeat, and we just sampled the drums and the basic groove out of that. And then we brought that into Beatmaker 3 so that we have a lot more control over what we want to do with these sounds, using them in the environment of a DAW. But I really think that's an awesome way to use Playbeat, just as a way, extract some stuff, maybe randomize some stuff, and then extract that out to get some inspiration for starting something new like this. I think that's a great way to use that app. And let's go ahead and take a listen to what we've got so far from the beginning. Here we go, from the top. Really would be great vocal if we had a vocal sample all ready to go in that spot. I feel like the pad could maybe be a little louder. Oh, that is freaky, and I'm really liking the way that that is sounding. What I'd like to do, and this is, something that I just think really, that Beatmakers 3 really excels at. I'd like to make some variations of these yais here for that turnaround part specifically. And what I'd like to do is just copy these existing yais, okay? So we're going to copy, I'm going to highlight what I want to copy. I'm going to press the three dots and we're going to copy that. Now we're going to change pages of this bank. If I just scroll up to page 2, we've got 16 empty pads. I'm going to pick the first one. I'm going to paste that in. I'm going to go back to the first set of pads using that, page up and down here. Okay, I'm going to select that second yai sample that I want to copy. I'm going to use the three dots and I'm going to copy that. We're going to go to page 2. I'm going to pick an empty pad and I'm going to paste that in. But these are now variations, so because I'm anal, we're going to relabel these. We're going to go ahead and go in and we're going to call this yai, because I'm going to high pass filter these for the turnaround so we get a little bit more variation. I'm going to call this yai high pass 1. I'm going to call this second one, rename, you guessed it, yai high pass 2. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and save before I do anything else. What I want to do is I just want to put a high pass filter onto these two pads so that they are a little bit different sounding when we get to that little turnaround section. Yeah, see how we're kind of changing the timbre of that sound there? Yeah, bringing it up a little more maybe. Yeah, 832. Let's put the same kind of high pass filter on the second one. So we're going to go high pass filter, bring that up to about the same 832-ish. 8, come on. I just want to move you a little tiny bit. There we go, that'll work. And I'm going to bring that resonance up a little bit as well. Maybe less on the resonance there. Cool, so now that I've made these variations that are a little bit more high pass filtered, I just need to go into our pattern. And let's see here, this is that last bar here, that turnaround bar where we kind of solo those yai hits. And so if I go into to here, I can see that, yai 2 there, and then this one here, they're both labeled yai synth 2. We didn't fix those names. Maybe we'll do that in a minute then. But what I want to do, I just want to move these from here onto those new yais. So we're gonna, that should have been like yai 1 per se. So I'm gonna, I hope this is making any sense. So I'm just gonna move those up to the new high passed version of that sample. And I'm gonna do the same with these yai 2s. I'm gonna move them up to the yai 2 high passed version. So it's gonna play that pattern, normally all the way through until it gets to our little tiny breakdown. And then it's gonna switch over to those high passed versions of the yai to make, that much more of a difference when we hear the turnaround. I hope that makes sense. Let's go ahead and hear that in context now. Again, what we're listening for is just the turn. Whoops, come on. I'm going to move this loop brace here. So we're hearing just this new pattern, and when it plays the break, it's just going to loop right back around again. And this is what that sounds like. Hey, what's happening, Audible Video? Thanks for tuning in. Hey, Timothy. Here we go. It's not quite right still. Something was a little bit off there. I see. What we really want is that. So I'm gonna, let's see here. I think I might have done this wrong. We're gonna copy that one. Hold on. Maybe I can just move it over. What is it? Let's see here. Go down. Yeah, it's actually just that last hits that I want of it. And here, we can see that I've got not that selected, but rather the other. So I can just change that because it's on its own individual pad here. So what I'm affecting on this pad isn't affecting the other pads. There we go. So now we have the little one and then the bigger one. That's what I'm looking for. Let's save at this time and go ahead and hear that again in context. I'm just trying to get that turnaround part here at the end of this pattern a little bit smoother. We are definitely getting there. I think those might be a little bit loud individually. And I also think we might be able to do some creative panning with these. Pan the first one 10 to the left and pan the second one like 10 to the right. So we got a little bit more stereo separation as these sounds are hitting. Now we can just bring the gain down on these, maybe a little couple decibels. So they're a little bit quieter. What did I bring it to 3? Yeah, okay, let's try that. Maybe this one could actually be even lower for, let's find out. All right, we're going to hear this again. We are definitely getting there. I still think they need to be a little bit quieter maybe, and maybe a tiny little bit more dramatically panned. So let's go 13 and 13 instead of 10 and 10 on the panning. And let's also bring the volume down a little bit more on both of these sounds. Again, if we dip the volume in that little turnaround, it allows us to then, push the volume forward. And there's sort of that, ebb and flow, that tension and release kind of stuff that we're definitely looking for as we're arranging our music. Exactly. That is exactly what I'm talking about. I think we might try to leave the pumping riser playing out for that full section there. And let's see here what we've got. Save. What we've got is if I go back to the song menu here, let's see, we've got 1, and then we've sort of got 4 sections and no breakdown yet. Might be a great time to do a little bit of a breakdown there on measure 41. So let's see, maybe we can grab, is this not labeled? No, it should be building into the main groove. Cool. Let's go ahead and just, let's duplicate that. Okay, and then let's give it a different name. So it's no longer, building into the main groove 1, but this is rather after, no, hold on. This is really going to be like break 1, kind of what we're trying to create here. And I just want to create something that's a little bit less intense than that yai pattern that we just came out of, so that the listener can relax for just a moment, hopefully. Let's see what this is already. Right, so this might be an interesting opportunity to, let's see here, to like, it's either like a great chance to add something or maybe to take something away. And I can't decide really, or maybe both actually. Let me go into this pattern here. And there we go. I just want to, there we go. I just want to get our track titles up here on the left so that I can see what all of these are. We've got our mid synth loop here and our bass loop. So this might be a great time to get rid of that mid synth loop and see if we can introduce something else in the track maybe. If I go ahead and delete that, but I keep our bass loop in for now, and I can maybe just get rid of this riser so we're not necessarily worrying about the end section necessarily of our groove so much. Get rid of that bass drop for now. Yeah, that's definitely got some room in here for us to add something else. Like maybe I just keep, my brain is really thinking a filtered drum loop over this might be cool. Kind of like to keep, I used to be like a drummer as my first instrument, so I'm always kind of keen to like make the rhythms, flowing and complex. I don't necessarily know if I've just immediately got drum loops at 128 BPM that we could slot in here or not. Let's see if I can. I think I might have some in a free pack. I'm not sure if that's on this iPad or not. Um, hmm. I do believe I have a free pack of drum loops on my website. I'm not 100% sure that we can just grab those and get them going here, but I'm pretty confident that there'll be something in there at 128. So we're going to see if maybe we can just grab those and download them, I think, real fast. Let me just go to my website here, Electronisounds. I might already have this on, installed in Beatmaker 3 somewhere, but I'm not really sure. And this would probably be a quick way to just grab them. If you're interested in free samples, on my website, electronisounds.com, there is a page of freebies, which you can get all kinds of, there's patches for Beatmaker 3. Here's 16 patches for Beatmaker 3 here. There's a bunch of patches for RESAMPLE Noir. Here's an extra drum kit. Here's some inspiration kits for Beatmaker 3. But this is what I'm after right here. This Plasmatics free drum loops. There's some like 50 drum loops in here, if I'm not mistaken. And let's see if we can get this downloaded. Okay, Electronisounds freebies. I want to share. Let's see. No, I want these 3 dots right here. Here we go. I want to. Haven't done this in quite some time. I want to share. I want to export. No, that's not quite it. Got a new version of iOS here, so I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna do this the right way. Make available offline. Yeah, but what I want to do is I just want to Is this it? Export file? That's it. All right, cool. Beatmaker 3. Unzipped content available in the something directory. I accidentally clicked that, but I'm guessing it's either going to be in the imports or in the samples directory. So let's see if I can find that stuff here. I would have assumed. I missed where it actually put the thing. So rather than try to search for it forever, I'm just going to see if I can do that again. All right. So back here, and I went to share, and I went to export, and I went to Beatmaker 3, and it says unzipped content available in the imports directory. Yeah, you would think so, but here we are. Oh, there we go. Electronisounds, Plasmatics, drum loops. Fantastic. Hey, there's some at 128. I knew it. All right. So if you're looking for free drum loops, definitely go grab this free pack of drum loops from my website. And let's take a listen to what we've got here. Maybe we can like filter something and get creative with it. Yeah, there's all kind of stuff here. I haven't heard these in like forever, so I don't really know what's here. I like that halftime stuff. I don't necessarily want to add a big old 4 on the floor beat. Maybe something like that could be interesting, though. You just never really know what's going to work. Let's play our groove here. Yeah, I like the way that sounds, I think, maybe. What we can do is put a high-pass filter on this drum loop to get rid of all those low frequencies beneath about 1,000 hertz. Yeah, and just bring it down way back in the mix, right? And what I can do is this looks like it's a 4-bar drum loop. Fantastic. That was quick and easy. All right. We're going to go ahead and just go in here, and we're going to put that. Actually, I want to make sure to tell it not to play in its entirety every time I tap that pad, rather, Bring the release down a tiny bit on that as well. So we just want this to hold down for 4 bars now. So we're going to go ahead and just have it hold out for a 4, and then we'll duplicate that. Let's hear how it sounds in the mix. I'm definitely going to put the sidechain compression on this so that it's ducking this loop every time our kick drum hits, so that our kick drum continues to, punch through the mix, okay? We're just gonna bring this down in the mix a tiny little bit more to start us off with. All right, and I'm gonna go to the audio effects tab. Make sure that we're on the right pad, because we're currently not on the right pad. I want to be on this one here, our 4-bar drum loop, and I want to put the dynamics processor on here. I want to put it at a ratio of 4:1, and I want to bring the attack down all the way. Now all we need to do is tell it that I want to sidechain against the kick drum. So I'll select the pad. Here's all of our pads. I could select anything to sidechain this against. I'm going to select our kick drum. Again, we're just on one bank today, so the workflow is really, really straightforward. Now, the more I pull the threshold down, the more of that sidechain pumping effect we get on this new loop. I'm not looking to create extreme pumping per se. I just want to make sure that our kick drum is always punching really cleanly through the mix. All right. I think I want to bring this down in the mix a tiny little bit more still. We're almost there. This is just a subtle layer, just an interesting filtered, textured layer per se that I'm trying to add. All right. I think one more thing that I'd like to do with this drum loop is we've high pass filtered it and removed some low frequencies, but I think we actually want to sort of essentially band pass it and take out a little bit more of the high frequency content as well. So if I go to the layer effects tab, I can add some more effects just on this particular synth, and I can just put the low pass filter on, and I can adjust that to taste here. Here we can really, low pass it out and make it gone completely. And I can just add it back in little by little. And I can sort of just find the frequency spectrum where I want this to sit, because now we're we're low passing the high frequencies, and we're high passing the low frequencies. So we're getting this just in a really specific part of the frequency spectrum, so that it doesn't, conflict with a lot of our other parts in the mix, and just adds that little bit of texture. I like the way that sounds. All right. I think maybe in this section here, we could maybe keep the groove going a little harder by having the ride going. Oh yeah. Nice. I think that ride might be a little bit too loud in volume still. I'm going to bring it down a decibel, but I don't want to affect it in the mix so much that it changes how it was sounding in the mix just a moment ago. So maybe what we want to do is on this pattern only, I'm going to go into these notes here and select all of these ride hits, but then go down to pattern Midi, where it's on note velocity, and I can just bring the velocity of all of those rides down, so that when this pattern comes, those rides are not hitting at full velocity, but a little bit quieter. That's a lot better. All right. And what let's do now is let's go ahead and save, go back to song mode, and then let me hear the transition between our, really extreme section with all of the yais in it, going into this new section with quite a bit of a, breakdown in the elements. Yeah, you got it exactly, Audible Video. Yeah, and we sort of launch into a new section. Awesome. So the listener's got, 8 bars here to kind of get used to what's happening, that we've added that new percussion line, and then we can definitely add a new melodic line after that plays. We can go ahead and we can, let's see, I don't want to, yeah, I do. I want to duplicate that so that it creates a brand new pattern. And it's not really break 1, so I want to break 2 rather. So I want to give that a different name. And we're going to call this one moving forward, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're moving forward now with the arrangement of our track. And I'm just making sure that instead of repeating these, if I repeat them and then try to alter that repeated version, it's going to affect the previous version. So we just want to make sure that we're duplicating and creating new patterns each time. Looks like my dog needs to take an outside break real fast. So just one moment while we get Opie outside. Hang on. Help with Opie, please. All right. There we go. Thanks for your patience, everyone, and thanks for hanging out with me on these live streams. I appreciate you being here. Let's see, how long has it been today? It's been just over 2 hours. All right. I think what we're going to do is try to get one more melodic element to come into this new section. And then I think we're going to get ready to wrap it up today. We don't need to make this extremely long. If anyone's got any questions at all, whether they be about what we're working on today, or iPad music production, or just music production in general, now would be a great time to get those in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them before the end of the session today. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got our new section here now called Moving Forward. And if I go ahead and just put the loop brace around that section. All right. We can go ahead and try to add something else here. Now, we don't want to add the yais back in, but we do have another sound that we sampled, which was that effects hit. And this might be a great time to get that into the mix, actually, to help sort of let the listener know that we're changing it up now. We're moving forward into a different section. Let me go ahead and put that in on the downbeat. Let's find out where that is. Effects swish hit. There it is. Cool. And we can just put that here. And we may need to... Did I pan that? Because I'd like to pan that. Yeah, cool. Let's pan that maybe like... I don't know, 15 to the right. So I've been panning the impact sounds a little to the right, and I'm going to pan our like riser sounds a little bit to the left. Let's make sure we get that done. Our riser. Let's pan that a little bit to the left. Yeah. Whoops, that's the gain. I don't want to do that. Rather, let's undo what I just did there and pan it instead. Cool. So now the riser, sort of happens on the left, and the crashes sort of happen on the right. So it's just that tiny little bit more, stereo width we get as we rise and then push off this way. Cool. Let's go ahead and save that with those extra. Okay, so what let's do then to find this melodic part, hopefully, is let's either scroll for something out of the EMX-1, or we can scroll for something out of the Raven. Why don't you guys in the chat pick either EMX or Raven and drop that in with the chat, and we'll see which one is the popular answer, and maybe we'll go with that to find our next melodic element. Sometimes I feel like it's kind of fun to just do it that way, with like the power of random and finding if something jumps out at you that you can use, because I don't really have any like preconceived idea of what we're creating today, or what it should be, or what it sounds like. I'm just sort of in that creative flow, and we're just kind of going with the flow, you know what I mean? So what do you think, guys? EMX or Raven? Just let me know in the chat. We got one for Raven. Oh, thanks for tuning in, 10 mil. Enjoy the rest of your day. Right, let's see here. I've already got the Raven plugged in, so if I'm not mistaken, we can just pick an empty pad here, maybe this pad here, go into the sampling window here, make sure that our monitoring is on there. Fantastic. Wish we could get more level coming out of the Raven, but that is what it is. Now if I press play, we not only get that cool, we got our new effect hit in the mix. I just want to put some extra reverb and delay from our session onto that hit before we go forward, so that I don't forget. So there we go, a little bit of the delay and a little bit of the reverb from our mix. I think it was a little loud as well, so maybe we'll bring it down in volume the tiniest bit. Where is that? It's this one. Just trying to look on my visualizers here where the frequency on this sound is really most prevalent, and then we can put an EQ on that just a little bit. What I'd like to do, actually, I'll just use the Pro Q3, and then we can see it on the screen here. Just want to do a tiny little adjustment here on this sound. Yeah, I just want to bring it down right about like a so. Actually, we're going to turn my default setting on first so that I can pull those lows, maybe a little bit of those highs as well. I just want to bring it down a tiny little bit, right where that main frequency hits, so that it doesn't jump out quite as much on the downbeat. Better. I think also what might be cool is if we put the sidechain happening against the kick on this as well. And again, this is going to be really just minimal. I'm not trying to create a big pump here or anything like that. Just trying to keep everything ducking out of the way of the kick drum at all times, super gently, so that the kick drum can be the most prevalent thing in the mix. The other one was the EMX-1 audible video, this guy right here. But I think we've got the Raven already connected, so I think we might just go ahead and see what we can get out of that real fast. If I go again to just pick an empty pad, maybe we can pick this pad here, go to the recording page, make sure our monitoring is on. All right, we are back in. Now, the Raven is putting out these new parts. No, that's cool already. Hold on, hold on. I kind of almost like this part. It's not quite right, though. But close. yeah, I like this. Yeah, I do, is the thing. So I'm going to see if we can sample that in. We're going to go ahead and I'm just going to hit start, and I'm just going to tap a key so that it's, actually starting the recording. And then we're going to go ahead and press play, and it's already recording and ready to go. 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, and all right, just getting 4 bars of that little synth riff there. And there we have the actual synth riff. We can go ahead and start editing out. We can go into the edit screen here, and I just need to figure out. I always have a little bit of an issue trying to remember how to get that side to go away in the edit. I think it's a sort of a default. It's a little odd there. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom way in on that recording that we just got so that we can get the start point right at the start point. Right in there. Yeah, that looks good. And we'll trim that out. Cool. I think I want to get a little bit more volume on this. So let's normalize it to like, oh, I don't know, -4 or something. Cool. Apply. Just getting a little bit more volume there. I also want to hear how much air is at the end of this sample. Yeah, I think we're going to leave that air there, but just kind of highlight the end and do a fade out. Now, I'm going to go ahead and save this sample in our main sample directory. This is the Raven, and this is like 128 C minor. It's like a synth groove, and I'll just put some numbers and stuff so it gets its own name there for sure. We're going to go ahead and save again at this time. We can go into that actual pad and give it a name. So rename this Raven ARP on the pad itself. Cool. So it's not just a bunch of, Audio Hub 2x4 and numbers and stuff. And maybe we can put like a high pass filter on this, really smooth, gentle one at like, oh, I don't know, about 100 hertz or whatnot. So there's no possibility of like low frequencies hanging out in that sound that we might not hear. Let's change it from a one shot to a hold so that, it only plays when we hold the pad down. And let's go ahead and put this particular part in this pattern. Here we go. And so this is a 4-bar loop. So I'm just going to have it hold for 4 bars. And then we're going to go ahead and duplicate that out. How does it sound? Whoa, it sounds off is how it sounds. It could be that since we were, running the tempo on that sample from the Midi Beatmaker 3, that it's, I don't know, played it off somehow, but it's not really syncing up as expected, as most samples do. So now I'm trying to figure out like what I want to do about that per se. Definitely is like I want both of those parts is the thing because they're different. Then it changes to that lower note on the second half. Yeah, I don't have any way to tell like what I would need to do here. So let me think this through. The options would be to, A, just try it again. However, we have already done it that way, so I'm not sure that that's exactly the best, answer per se. But that's definitely the easiest answer. If I try to record it again and maybe try to record it for like longer so that I could chop in like halfway instead of starting maybe right at the beginning when the MIDI sync hasn't, okay, let me see if I can explain that. When you're MIDI syncing like hardware and stuff, a lot of times it takes a few seconds for the MIDI sync to really be in sync. And so if I were to sample out an 8-bar section rather than the 4-bar section that we need, I can chop potentially the sample on the start of measure 5, where hopefully the MIDI timing would be more solid between these devices. So let's go ahead and try that. I think we're going to go back into the sample page. And I'm not sure if it's going to let me just record right over the sample. Hopefully it will. Just get it recording there. Put the monitor back on. Okay. And now I'm just going to press play, and I'm going to count it down again. But instead of 4, we're going to record 8 bars this time. So, yeah, you can hear it's off. But now on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully, we'll be able to. I don't think it actually recorded over that original one is the thing. So what we're going to do then, that's no problem at all. And I was wondering if it would, which is why I wanted to just go ahead and try it, because I wasn't sure. But that's no worries. All I need to do is highlight a loop, any loop, basically, and then go clear pad. But it was so loud I didn't. Sorry for the loudness here, everyone. There, and I can just clear that out there. Now that it's an empty pad, it will allow us to record over it for sure. So I'm just going to go ahead and start the recording. We're going to play it out here for a full 8 bars. 1, 2, whoops, we're not. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to let that come back down again, and we'll try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. All right. Now, I believe we got it that time. So, yeah. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to need to edit now this second half. We're going to need to chop that in half. We're going to go into the edit screen. We're going to trim that. We're just going to listen to this, and we're going to have to count this out in our head so that I can find where the downbeat is on measure 5. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, and 1. Is it here? It is. All right, I'm going to trim that a little bit to the left, more than we need to start with. We're going to go process, we're going to go trim. I'm going to bring the volume up on this a little bit. Let's just go normalize, I don't know, to like, yeah, there we go, cool. Now we can start zooming in and try to get this downbeat as precise as we can. I believe it's, you know, right there. All right, I believe it's literally right here. It's going to go trim. And hopefully, what we're hoping for is we're hoping that the timing of our sample is now going to be a lot more, you know, in sync with our project. Let me check how much air we've got here. This way. Quite a bit more than we need. So I'm going to go ahead and pull some of that air off by just selecting what we need, going trim. Now we're just going to do a little bit of a fade out at the end. I'll select the end and go process and fade out. Fantastic. We'll go ahead and save at this time. And what let's do is let's save this sample in our main sample directory. This is the Raven, and it's 128, and it's C minor, and it's synth take 2, basically. All right. And what let's do is, if I'm not mistaken, we've already got that dot in on, yeah, we do. Let's see how it sounds. Okay, hold the phone. One thing I need to remember when we're sampling from the gear like this is after we've got the samples in the box is to turn the volume down on the actual unit itself. Cool, let's hear that now. What's up, Opie? I know you don't need to go out, you just went out. Are you restless? What's up, bud? Now, our part is totally synced up again. And I hope that made sense. not synths, but I hope that made sense in that oftentimes when we're working with actual MIDI gear, it takes a little bit of time, a few bars per se, for everything to actually really lock up into the tempo, which is why that very first recording was off just that little tiny bit because it hadn't, I didn't give it the chance per se to lock into the tempo before we recorded it. That's not always an issue, but sometimes it is, and that's how we can get around that by just recording a little more than we need so that it's already locked in where we're trimming it. I hope that makes sense, everyone. Hey, what's happening, Russ? Thanks for tuning in. All right. Okay, let's see here. What let's do is maybe let's take a listen to what we've got now in its entirety so I can see how the flow is going. I think we got quite a bit of stuff written here in this session today. Not bad at all. That's 7 patterns. All right, let's go ahead and hear this in its entirety, shall we? Oh, I really wish I had a vocal sample to drop in there like right now. Yeah, I like that ride coming in there. Really like those guys. All right, now remember, this is going to stop. We're going to bring in the extra drum loop here. If we had a vocal sample, here would be a great spot for it, you know. I think we've made it here pretty well. It's not perfect, but for a live stream, I think these transitions are pretty darn solid. And maybe we could go ahead and, let's see here, duplicate this pattern here to another pattern. So we've got moving forward, and then we've got another one after that. We've got, maybe we'll make this rename, maybe we'll name this moving forward 2. You've got to relax, Opie. We're going to wrap it up in just a minute, buddy. All right. What we've got here then is we've got a new pattern that maybe we could add one more thing to, and let's take a listen to that. Actually, the first thing we'll probably want to do is remove that big hit from the downbeat of part 2 of this, because I don't think we're going to need that to repeat again here. So where is that? I always have a little bit of trouble getting back into the screen where it shows it. All right, there we go. So here's effects swish hit, right, and we just want to get rid of that for this second time through the pattern. Yeah, but this leaves us that extra space. I wonder if we could sneak in oh, come on. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can get this in. It sounds pretty good. That That last one might be inappropriate. But that sounds pretty good. And what's cool about bringing that back in is that the listener's already familiar with these sounds, so it's not necessarily as jarring as if we were to just bring in a whole bunch of new sounds. Hey, buddy. You're all randy today. You want to say hi? Hello. This is my studio buddy, Opie. He's very old and mostly just likes to sleep in here. In fact, I don't believe we have the ride going in here. No, we do, but maybe we could, yeah, the ride here is still just going on the upbeats. So maybe to help the momentum of this section keep really pushing forward, maybe we take the ride not on the ands, but put it on, you know, full eighth notes. Dun, 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 dun. So it really drives the rhythm instead of just pushing the backbeat of the rhythm, if that makes any sense. What I'm going to do then is go ahead and just delete these rides for now. Delete, cool. And then let's just put in, again, just a really basic, where's the ride? Cool, here we go. A little bit more variation there to help the pattern push forward a little. All right, I am definitely going to save that. All right, I think we're going to get ready to wrap it up, but I definitely want to hear this, whoops, one more time in its entirety so that we can kind of get an idea of what we've put together today. All right, cool deal. Opie, you need to relax, buddy. We're going to hang out in just a minute. We got to finish the stream first. Okay, so let's give this a listen to. We didn't actually put anything from the Force in today, but I had that out in case, you know, things didn't work out with the EMX or with the Raven, or if we just wanted to add some more stuff. But I love that we were able to get, you know, some of these 90s boxes into the mix, because for those of you who are familiar with my channel, I'm definitely still stuck in the 90s, and this is like my vibe when it comes to electronic music. Cool deal. So, yeah, it's been about 2 hours and 37 minutes. So, yeah, perfect time to call it and wrap it up. Let's check this out, and then we'll do that. If you guys have any last-minute questions or anything like that, that'd be a great time to get those in the chat. Want to EQ that pad a little differently still. Maybe I took it too far back in the mix, maybe. Yeah, I think I took that pad too far back in the mix with the filter. Definitely where a vocal sample would go. Hey, thanks for tuning in, Michael. I appreciate that. think another arpeggio right here might be really nice. Like a mid-range, kind of like almost a 303 basically. Yeah, yeah. That new lead might be too low as well, but I'm on the headphones, so the mix is always a little off when I'm on the headphones. It is what it is, but I really like what we've got going here and what we've got started today. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me in the chat while we work on these, sessions and have fun and creativity on Sunday. All right, cool deal. Fantastic. All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and wrap it up. So, thanks for hanging out. And until next time, take care of each other, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Thanks again for hanging out.